happy summer. I hope you're all enjoying spending lots of time outside playing with your friends and family. And this is also the perfect time for you to enjoy our special omnibus edition of Journey with Story, where you can listen to all of this month's episodes in one place. Oh, mums and dads, don't forget you can download some free colouring sheets to accompany each episode if you go to www.journeywithstory.com and click on the Become a Patreon orange tab. It's up there at the top of each page. And also, if you scroll right down, it's right there at the bottom of every page too. Thanks to all of you, our loyal Patreon subscribers. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's take an omnibus journey with Story. Now, let's take a journey with Salt on a Magpie's Tail. Making a wish isn't hard at all. In fact, it's the easiest thing to do in the world. But to make that wish a reality, well, that is something else entirely. And nobody learned that lesson better than our lazy boy Ole, who wanted and wanted, but would do nothing to make his wishes come true. He wished for things so often that his mother teased him about it. "And what are we asking for today, Ole?" she would ask every morning before she headed out to work. "A pocket knife? Or perhaps a sled? Or—" And so instead of helping his mother with any of the household chores, Ole spent his time wondering, daydreaming, and listing all the things he wanted. Ole and his mother had been poor ever since Ole's father passed away many years ago, so they could afford very little. Every minute of every day, he would think of something new to wish for. One day, as he was out and about, he spotted an old man sitting on a bench with his eyes closed. "Are you okay, old man?" Ole asked. "Oh, yes, I'm just resting," the man replied. Ole was relieved. The man was so still, Ole had worried that he may have been dead. "Would you like some advice?" the old man asked the boy, his eyes now wide open, with a sparkle in them. Ole frowned. He didn't exactly want unsolicited advice, but he figured that it couldn't hurt. "Go on then, old man." The old man broke into a smile. "I hear you wandering these streets, wishing and wishing, but how often do they come true?" "They don't," Ole admitted. "Exactly. But I know how you can change that." "Is that so?" Ole asked, his hopes rising. The old man nodded. "Have you heard of the legend of the Magpie?" Ole shook his head. "They say that if you sprinkle a pinch of salt on the tail of a magpie, anything you wish for will come true. Go to the woods and find one. There is only one catch." "Oh, what?" Ole held his breath in anticipation. "You must make your wish quickly. If the salt falls off the magpie's tail before you've made your wish, it won't come true." "But if it doesn't, I'll get anything I ask for." "Indeed, my son." Ole could hardly contain his excitement. Within minutes, he had run home to retrieve a bag of salt, large enough to grant him 100 wishes, and shoved it deep into his pocket. Without stopping for breath, he ran into the forest in search of a magpie. Ollie thought it would be easy to sprinkle salt on the tail of a magpie. But boy, was he wrong. What the old man didn't tell Ollie was that magpies cannot be as easily fooled as, say, a pheasant or a duck. No, magpies are intelligent birds, if not one of the most intelligent animals to exist. So even though Ole saw many magpies in the forest, he was disappointed to find that the black and white birds with the shiny blue-green wings flew away before he could get close to them. In fact, sometimes they seemed to taunt him, waiting for him to get very close until they flapped away, their caws like laughter. Ole sat down, exhausted between the trees, the hope he had once dissipating. "Oh, my wishes will never come true," he sighed to himself as he leaned against the rough but comforting trunk of a pine tree. Ole was just drifting off to sleep when he heard something. "Ole, Ole," a voice called. Ole looked up, and in between the branches he could see it. A magpie looking down at him. "You can talk!" he exclaimed.
"Yes,"
the magpie answered.
"I hear that you want your wishes to come true. Is that right?"
"Yes, it is."
"Well, I can help you, but you will need to help me first."
Ole sat up straight, his neck straining from looking up at the magpie. "What do you need?"
"I need a knife, a fine knife, to clean my claws. If you bring one to me, I will sit still long enough for you to sprinkle salt on my tail."
A knife for a wish? It was simple enough, right? Surely the magpie wouldn't lie to him. Yes, the other magpies had teased him, but this one spoke. He seemed honourable enough. "Okay, I will get you a knife," Ole promised. But of course Ole had no money. How could he ever afford a fine knife? All the knives at home were dull with use. Ole thought for a moment, until he realised he knew exactly what to do. In the forest there were enough berries to feed an entire village. Ole decided to use this to his advantage. The next day Ole returned to the forest with one bucket in each hand and filled them up with berries he picked from the bushes. Blueberries, cloudberries, lingonberries, and blackcurrants stained his fingers, but it was worth it. When he took them to the market, the townsfolk couldn't help but be charmed by the labour of his hands and by all his goods. By the end of the day, Ole could afford to buy a cheap pocket knife. It wasn't a fine knife, but he was sure it was sharp enough to do the job. Before returning to the forest the next morning, he filled his pocket with salt. Ole was about to get his wish. "Oh, Magpie, I've got your knife," he called out as he arrived at the same pine tree he visited only the day before yesterday. The magpie flew down to where Ole stood and took one look at the knife before shaking his head and flapping his wings with agitation.
"That will not do. Have you seen the material? I require the finest steel, not whatever copper this is."
Before Ole could make a case for how hard he had worked for the knife, the magpie had flown up into the tree. "Okay, what if I get you a better knife?" he yelled. "Will that do?"
"No, it will not. Now, what I really want is a sled."
"A sled?" Ole queried. What could a magpie do with a sled?
Yes, a sled. I'm quite tired of using my wings, you know.
Ollie could not imagine the magpie on a sled, but if it would get him a wish— "I will get your sled," Ollie promised. And so, with the pocket knife the magpie had rejected now in his possession, Ollie began thinking of other ways to make money. He could only get so far by picking and selling berries, so Ollie thought of something more lucrative he could do. He could use the knife to whittle spoons, bowls, and wooden toys to sell at the market. Satisfied with his new idea, he set to work. Again, the townspeople could see the time and effort that Ollie had put into crafting his items, and it only took him a few days before he sold out and was able to buy a used sled. Once again he went to the forest, his pockets lined with salt, and presented the sled to the magpie.
What is this you have brought me? This is not what I wanted.
The magpie screeched before flying off into one of the branches. Ollie sighed. "Oh, it's a sled for—"
No, what I really want now is a wagon.
Ollie couldn't believe the magpie's ingratitude. But what choice did he have? Soon he was on his way once more. He began whittling again, but this time he used his new sled to make deliveries outside of town to reach folks with deeper pockets. He was soon able to keep some money aside to help out his mother with their household costs. Once he had made enough money to afford a wagon, not a used one, but a new one, he returned to the forest. The magpie strutted across the wagon with its beak turned up.
This is not the one I want.
Ollie was so disappointed. He couldn't please the magpie, it seemed, no matter what he tried. "Okay, I will get a—"
No.
Actually, the magpie said.
What I really want is a fine horse and carriage.
"Sorry?"
Yes, a horse and carriage.
Ollie couldn't imagine what the magpie would do with the horse and carriage, but again he went away to earn some more money. He continued whittling and making deliveries, but now that he had a wagon, he was also able to haul firewood across the country for people to burn in the winter. Working hard at both trades, Ollie was able to support his mother and eventually earn enough to afford a horse and carriage fit for royals. But when the magpie saw the horse and carriage, he was not impressed.
I do not particularly like the colour of this horse,
he complained. Ollie shook his head. Why could he not get it right? "Okay, I will get you—"
A house. Yes, that is what you'll get me. It is getting mighty cold out here, and I do need to stay warm. Unless you don't want your wish, that is.
So Ollie went back to work, carving and delivering. However, he soon found it too much for one person, so he hired other boys to help him with the trade. His business had soon expanded so much that he was able to move out of his mother's house and buy a nice little home at the edge of town, near the forest where the magpie resided. From his yard he called for the magpie and presented the house.
What is this? This is not a house. This is a shed for peasants. I require a castle.
Ollie was hurt by the magpie. He had spent time, money, and energy on this house. How could the magpie not see that? "Okay, fine, I will buy your castle, but then—"
No, a castle won't do. What I need now is an abundance of gold coins. Then I can buy all that I want without having to go through you.
Ollie thought that, for once, the magpie might be right. So much could have been avoided if only the magpie had chosen the things he desired for himself. So Ole worked even harder. He saved carefully and expanded his business, eventually earning enough money to buy not just one castle, but two. When he showed the Magpie a sack overflowing with gold coins, the Magpie finally said,
"That is what I wanted. You have done well, Ole. Now you may sprinkle the salt on my tail and make your wish once and for all."
Ole broke into a huge smile. The time had come at long last. He retrieved the salt from his pocket and sprinkled it onto the Magpie's tail.
"What is your wish, Ole?"
the Magpie asked. Ole thought about it. What did he wish for? All this time he had been so busy working and earning money that he had completely forgotten what it was he wished for. When he had first set out to have his wish granted by the Magpie, he had been poor and could afford very little. But now he could not think of a single thing that he wanted. The Magpie gave Ole 3 seconds, but Ole could not come up with anything. The Magpie flipped his tail with a laugh, and off flew all the salt Ole had sprinkled on it. Ole was filled with anger and frustration, feeling tricked by the Magpie. Finally, he thought of what he wanted and announced, "I want a cage that I can put you in."
"That's not very nice,"
the Magpie said with a frown.
"Why would you want to do that? Have I not given you all that you wanted?"
"You have not given me anything," Ole exclaimed.
"No?"
The Magpie tilted his head quizzically.
"Because of me, did you not end up with a knife, and a sled, and a wagon, and a—"
The Magpie reeled off all the things he had requested from Ole and turned away. And Ole realized these were things that he himself had wanted.
"And did you not get all of this without a single wish?"
said the Magpie.
"Don't you see? You got all of this with hard work. Don't you think this lesson was a greater gift than any wish?"
Stunned, Ole realized the Magpie was right. He had attained all those things he once could only dream of without making a single wish. He had earned them himself. You're right," Ole conceded. But the Magpie had flown off, a single speck of salt still sticking to his tail.
Let's take a journey with the Tiger's Whisker. Long ago there lived a young boy whose mother had died. The boy's father was a rice farmer who worked in the fields all day long, day after day. He knew how much his son missed his mother, and so he set out to find a new mother for his son as soon as possible. He went to the nearby village and he found a young woman who was happy to be his wife and a mother for his son. But when the farmer brought his new wife home, his son would not even look at her. "I don't want a new mother," he cried. "I want only my own true mother who is dead. No one can take her place." The new wife tried to win the boy over. She cooked the tastiest of foods and delicious delicacies, but the boy would not eat. She tried to tell him stories and sing him songs, but he would not listen. She even tried sewing him some fine new shirts, but the boy would not even try them on. As time went by, her husband grew more and more impatient. "Why will my son not love you?" he complained. The new wife did not know what to do. She longed to have the boy call her mother and love her as she had grown to love him. One day, she decided to seek advice from an old hermit who lived on the top of a mountain. "Maybe he can make some kind of potion that will cause my stepson to care for me as he cared for his own mother," she thought. So, harbouring this hope in her heart, the woman climbed the steep mountain to ask the wise hermit for his help. "Please, make me some potion that will cause my stepson to care for me," she begged. "I could make such a potion, it is true," said the hermit, "but I lack a very important ingredient that would go into its making." "What is that ingredient? I'll do anything to get it, so the boy will care for me and we can be a happy household," the woman said. "What I need is the whisker of a wild tiger." "The whisker of a wild tiger?" she repeated. "However will I get such a thing?" "You will figure out a way," said the hermit. Now, the woman knew there was a tiger that lived in a cave in the hills above her husband's fields, because she had heard its fierce roar from time to time. She puzzled and prayed and puzzled some more as she walked home, until at last she came up with a plan. That night she left her house quietly in the deepest darkness and walked to the hills where the tiger lived. She took with her a dish of rice cooked in a little meat broth. Trembling, she tiptoed to the mouth of the tiger's cave, where she set the dish down on a flat rock. She backed away slowly, but not so far that the tiger could not see and smell her. She took a deep breath and called to the tiger in a musical voice. At first, he did not come out, but she continued to call to him softly, softly. After a time, he did come out. He sniffed at the rice in the dish, raised his head, and looking straight at her, gave her a terrible growl. She shivered, but did not run away. Then, keeping his suspicious eyes on her, the tiger ate all the rice from the dish and went back into the cave. The woman quickly removed the dish and ran home with it. The next night she returned. She put the dish of rice at the mouth of the cave and stepped away again, singing the tiger's name, but this time she did not step as far away as before. Again the tiger appeared, and though he growled as before, he ate the rice more eagerly, seeming not to notice that she stood closer. The next night after that, the woman returned for a third time. This night, the tiger came out of the cave more quickly, as if waiting for her, and this night the woman stood even a little closer as the tiger ate. And so it went, night after night after night, until the tiger no longer growled at the woman, and the woman no longer trembled. Finally, one night the woman did not set the dish on the ground, but she held it in her hand for the tiger to eat out of it. The night after that, she did the same thing, and with her free hand, she scratched the tiger's soft, furry head. The tiger looked up at her with his large golden eyes and stood very still. Gently, she spoke to him. "Dear tiger," she said, "I would like one of your whiskers." The woman reached slowly into her pocket, took out small scissors, and very slowly clipped one of the tiger's long whiskers. The tiger gave a low, not unfriendly growl and clawed the ground. Then he shook his head briskly and walked back into his cave. The woman sighed. "Oh, "Thank you, Tiger," she said. She ran as fast as she could to the hut of the hermit, and she found him stirring something in a pot over a fire. "Look, look," she said, "I have brought you the whisker of a tiger. Now you can make the potion that will make the boy love me." The wise hermit took the whisker in his fingers and examined it closely. He turned it this way and that. "Indeed," he said, "it is truly the whisker of a wild tiger." Saying this, he dropped it into the fire, where it sizzled and burned to an ash. "What have you done?" the woman shouted. "It took me weeks and weeks to get near enough to the tiger to get that whisker for the potion. Now you have burned it up." "You do not need it," said the hermit quietly. "Is the boy less responsive than a savage and bloodthirsty tiger? I think not. Go, win over your stepson as you did the tiger, with gentleness, persistence, and a great deal of patience." And so the woman went back to her house. From that day forward, she cooked meals for her stepson. She cleaned his clothes. She sewed him fine shirts. But no more did she try to press him to sit with her or coax him into talking to her. She countered his angry scowls and sulky moods with love, with kindness, with patience, until at last, after many months had passed, there came a day when the boy felt lonely at bedtime, and he called out to her, "Please, will you come sit with me?" "Yes, of course, gladly," the woman said. "Shall I tell you a story, my son? The story of a wild tiger who became my friend?" "Yes, mother," cried the boy. And together they sat, hand in hand, as the words of the story filled their hearts with hope and love and joy. Let's take a journey with a mother's love. Long ago, after the Creator had made all the beings of the earth and the sea and the sky, he called all the mothers and their children together. He wanted to study the creatures he had made. He wanted to look closely at their wings and arms, their feathers and fur, their tails and manes, their eyes and snouts and beaks and lips and tongues. The Creator knew that everyone required proper nourishment, a safe place to live and sleep, to hide and hunt, and he wanted to make sure that each of his creations would be warm during the winter time, cool in the harshest heat, and comfortable in the places they called home. Every mother came, and one by one they paraded their children before the Creator. They nudged their offspring to swim or fly or strut, to show off their finest features. Every mother sighed with delight as she watched her child. Owls hooted and opened their eyes still wider as their mothers instructed. Spiders, bowing to their mothers' wishes, spun delicate silvery webs. Elephants swung their trunks to and fro with great gusto. Giraffes stretched out their necks long and high. Leopards preened, showing off their dazzling spots, while zebras swayed in their zigzag stripes. The Creator was pleased. Every one of his creations was special in its own way, and he liked what he saw. That is, he liked everything he saw until, late in the day, nearing sunset, when a crow stepped forward, prodding her child ahead. "Here she is," the mother cawed. "Surely I did not make such a creature," the Creator said. Every other creature I made is beautiful, but this little crow is hideous looking. Where did you get her?" The mother crow looked at the ground, her heart knotted with sorrow. She stepped in front of her child, hoping she had not understood the Creator's insult. "What do you mean, where did I get her? She is my child, your creation." "Go find another one," the Creator said, disgusted with the sight of the poor little crow. He turned away so he would not have to look any longer and added, "Find yourself a beautiful child." The mother crow was devastated. She loved her child with all her heart. She looked at her and saw a beautiful thing, sturdy and shiny, with those black feathers glistening under the light of the dying sun. But she could not ignore the Creator. "Stay right here," the mother crow instructed her child. "I'm going to see if I can find another baby that's lovelier than you." The little crow bowed her head. What could she say? She only wished her mother would love her, but perhaps she did not deserve love. Perhaps she wasn't beautiful enough. The mother crow took off, flying east, searching the sky for a beautiful child. She flew past a nest of falcons and moved in close to take a look, but when she saw them, she just shook her head. Her child was much more beautiful than those babies, and so she swept toward the ground to study penguins, ducks, and geese. But she thought them no better at all. She looked at kiwis and cranes, finches and vultures, pigeons and parrots. She watched hummingbirds hovering over blossoms. She sailed past waxwings in flight. Everywhere she looked, she saw little ones who were cute and fuzzy, sweet perhaps, some of them more colourful than her own, but no one quite so beautiful. On she travelled, considering every bird she passed, flamingos and grouse, ostriches and toucans, parakeets and pelicans. She swept past owls and terns and the wandering albatross, but every single creature looked frail or plump, awkward or angry, pale or puffed up when the mother crow compared it to her own child. After many hours, she flew back to her child's side and she bowed before the Creator. "I have searched the whole world," she said, "and everywhere I look, I see birds, but I have not found a single one that is more beautiful than mine." She leaned over and gave a little peck on her little one's head, and the baby crow's heart swelled with pleasure. Then the Creator understood. "You are right," he said. "Every mother thinks her child is the most beautiful child in the world." And ever since that day, every child has understood that it is a mother's love that makes every child beautiful.
Let's take a journey with Happy Mamas, written by me and published by the Child Welfare League of America. What makes a mama happy at the dawn of day? Feeding her little ones bundles of bamboo shoots to munch and crunch in leafy forest dell. Diving deep for a fishy feast that wee ones gulp with whiskery snouts, then follow with a flip-flap-floppy hunk of delight. Tossing pancakes in the pan, serve the stack all sticky and sweet, turns a sleepyhead into a smiley face. That's a my baby's belly's full kind of happy mama. What makes a mama happy as the sun begins to climb? Teaching her Joey how to hop and leap beyond the pouch, scrape a spot in cool of shade to doze and dream the day away. teaching her calf how to follow close, trunk and tail, spray and snorkel, trumpet loud a jungle cheer. Teaching her tot how to tiptoe close, watch and wonder, huff and puff, a dandelion wish. That's a see how smart my baby is kind of happy mama. What makes a mama happy as clouds shuffle by? Playing with her little ones, tag the tail, loop the loop, swing and swoosh, dip and dangle, all a tangle in a topsy-turvy fun fandango. Slide and slither, wibble wobble, teeter totter, wings all wonky, skate and skid, oops-a-daisy. Peek-a-boo, skip-to-my-loo, nibble nosies, tickle toesies. That's a come play with me kind of happy mama. What makes a mama happy as twilight glimmers, watching her little ones fly from the nest, soar up high into a world beyond of tips and tops and airy wispy wonder. Watching her little ones all a waddle and a paddle, all a dabble and a dibble, splish, splash, splash, off they sail with a quack, quack, quack. Watching her little one pick up baby brother, brush him off, wipe his tears, cuddle close and kiss him better. That's a see my baby go kind of happy mama. What makes a mama happy at hush of night? Making music with her little ones, singing beneath a starry desert sky, a serenade for the man in the moon to make him smile and light up the night, crooning owly lullabies, hush-a-bye, rock-a-bye, to-wit-to, whispering woo, through the deep dark woods, singing rub-a-dub-tub songs in the bath while blowing bubbles, floating ducks and sailing ships. That's a sing-song singing kind of happy mama. But as the moon glows and the stars shine, what makes all mamas, from desert to jungle, from forest to field, from land to sea, happiest by far? Having their little ones next to them, tucked up tight, all cuddled and kissed, from tusk to tail, from beak to claw, from snout to paw, from head to toe. That's a my baby's loved and happy kind of happy mama. Happy night, happy baby. Happy night, happy mama. Let's take a journey with Mama Ostrich. The pride and joy of Mama Ostrich were her 2 baby chicks hatched from her very own eggs. One day, when Mama Ostrich returned home from gathering food for her 2 dear chicks, she looked and looked for them, but could not find them anywhere. Imagine her alarm when she discovered lion tracks around her 2-footed chicks' tracks. But even a lion was not enough to scare off Mama Ostrich. She was determined to find her babies, and so off she went, following the lion's tracks, which led her deep into the woods and finally ended at the den of Mama Lion. In the opening through the cave there lay her own dear chicks, in the arms of Mama Lion. "Oh, what are you doing with my chicks?" cried Mama Ostrich. "Return them to me at once." "What do you mean, your chicks?" Mama Lion growled. "These are my cubs. That's plain to see." "It's not at all plain to see," said Mama Ostrich. "Those are chicks, ostrich chicks, and I'm an ostrich, and you're a lion." "Ha! Is that so?" snarled Mamma Lion. "Then you won't have any trouble finding any other animal who agrees with you. I dare you. Find any animal at all that will look me in the eye and tell me that these are not my cubs. Do that, then I'll release them to you." Mamma Lion got up, stretched, and roared a ferocious roar. Mamma Ostrich quickly ran off to each and every animal to tell them that she was assembling a meeting to discuss a terrible injustice. When she arrived at the home of the mongoose and told him her sad story, the mongoose thought and thought. Then he had an idea. He told her to dig a hole under an anthill and to make a second exit out of the anthill. This she did, and then she told all the animals, including Mamma Lion, to gather there at the anthill. When all had gathered, Mamma Ostrich explained to the group how Mamma Lion had captured her dear sweet chicks. The zebras and antelopes and all the other animals glanced at the chicks held closely by Mamma Lion and nodded with understanding. But when Mamma Ostrich said that she needed just one animal to come forward and look Mamma Lion in the eye and tell her that she was not the mother of these chicks, each and every animal in the meeting looked down at the ground. One by one, when each animal was asked, each animal whispered that the little ones definitely belonged to Mamma Lion, and there was no question about that. But when it came to Mongoose's turn, he cried out, "Have you ever seen a mama with fur? With babies that had feathers? Think of what you're saying. Mamma Lion has fur. The chicks have feathers. They belong to the ostrich." And having said that, Mongoose jumped down the hole under the anthill and escaped out the other end. At once, Mamma Lion jumped after him, and when she did, the two ostrich chicks were freed. Of course, they scrambled immediately right into their mother's open wings. Not knowing about the second exit, Mamma Lion paced and paced by that ant-hole hill, waiting for Mongoose to come out of the hole by which he had entered. Meanwhile, one by one, all the other animals slunk off home, leaving that Mamma Lion waiting at the entrance to the anthill for a very, very, very long time.
Now, let's take a journey with Bella's glorious adventure. Bella was a young princess who lived in a palace on the edge of a verdant forest. The palace garden was beautiful. There were rolling lawns, a large lake filled with white swans, and flowers in dazzling colours. Bella played in the garden all day, but at 7 o'clock sharp every evening, her nanny would call her inside for a bath. One evening, Bella decided that she didn't want to go inside at 7. It was still light, and she could hear the tinkling laughter of her parents, who were entertaining friends. She caught sight of a footbridge over a stream at the end of the garden, and with a quick glance over her shoulder, skipped across into the forest beyond. Bella ran as fast as she could along a winding path until she arrived in a clearing. She was so hot by this point that she pulled off her dress, leaving only the petticoat underneath. Folding it neatly, Bella left the dress on a large stone and gazed up at the ancient trees. "My, how big and tall you are," she said in awe. "We are as old as time," the trees whispered back. "You are not the first little princess to seek adventure in our forest, nor will you be the last." "You are old and tall, but you can't skip and jump like I can," Bella called as she went running off deeper into the heart of the forest. In her haste, Bella tripped on the rutted path and fell down with a heavy bump. "Oh, drat these shoes and socks! I shall leave them here until I return." Bella took the shoes and socks off and left them arranged tidily at the edge of the path. "That's better. I could run barefoot all day," Bella laughed. She sped through the trees and marvelled at the dappled spots of light that peppered her body. All of a sudden, Bella found herself at the edge of the forest. Before her was an open field full of wild raspberry bushes. Bella began to make her way through them, eating the delicious berries as she went. When her foot touched something smooth and cold, she reeled back in alarm. But it was only an adder. Bella wasn't afraid of snakes, and she stuck out her tongue at the hissing adder. "Aren't you a beauty?" she said. "Would you like to dance with me?" Bella began to leap and twirl, and the serpent joined in, swaying his head from side to side and wriggling his scaly body. After a while, the snake slid away, leaving Bella to dance alone. She eventually tired as well and skipped off to pick more raspberries, intending to save some for her mother and Nanny. She picked a big handful, but nearly dropped them in fright as she heard some heavy steps coming towards her. "Oh dear, it must be Nanny, come to take me home. She sounds angry," thought Bella. But it wasn't Nanny. It was a big brown bear. Bella laughed with delight, for she wasn't afraid of bears either. "Hello, bear. Would you like some raspberries?" She held out her hand, and the bear ambled over and began to gently nibble the raspberries from her palm. When she'd finished, the bear licked Bella's hand with her big, rough tongue, and this made Bella giggle even more. "What a lovely bear you are! But you must get so hot in that thick coat, poor thing." Bella stood on tiptoes and kissed the bear on her wet nose. At that moment, 2 small bundles of fur came tumbling out of the bushes. "Oh, what sweet little cubs!" exclaimed Bella. She and the cubs played rough and tumble together until they all lay panting. Then, as quickly as they had arrived, the bears darted off, and Bella was left alone. As she wandered back towards the forest, singing softly to herself, Bella heard a twittering overhead. Suddenly she felt a weight lift from her head. "Hey, that's my crown!" she shouted. You don't need a crown, answered a crow, but it will bring my children much joy. He was perched in a nest, and next to him was Bella's glittering crown. Where are your children? Bella asked. 4 fluffy heads popped up and looked at her wearily. Bella clapped her hands. Oh, do sing for me, little chicks. The singing was rather squeaky and not very tuneful, but Bella didn't mind. She clapped and hummed along with them. Keep the crown, she said. I must be on my way now, as the sun is beginning to set. Bella soon found herself at the shore of a lake. Its surface was covered with beautiful white water lilies that glowed eerily in the dusky light. As she was gazing at them longingly, a swan appeared. Would you like a closer look? The swan asked. Oh, yes, please, said Bella. She climbed onto the swan's back and used her pearl necklace for reins. The swan dropped her off at an island in the middle of the lake, and Bella told her to keep the pearl necklace as a memento. She lay down on the soft, mossy ground, breathing in the scent of the lilies. She almost dropped off, but sat up with a start as she realized it was getting dark. Swan, Swan, where are you? She called fearfully. When no answer came, Bella began to cry. Oh dear, Mother and Nanny will be so cross with me. How will I ever get home? There was a loud beating of wings, and Bella jumped up, thinking Swan was back. Instead, she was faced with an enormous eagle. Stop this crying at once, commanded the eagle. You are disturbing my children who are trying to get to sleep. It's time you went home. But I can't go home, Bella burst out. I've come too far and I can't remember the way back. The eagle sighed, saying, Honestly, what a silly thing you are. Well, I suppose I'd better take you back myself. Climb on. Bella and the eagle were off. As they gained height, the forest below them shrank away, and the trees blurred into a green smudge. The wide and raging river seemed little more than a squiggle of a blue pencil. Before long, Bella spotted her parents' castle, and the eagle began to swoop downwards while she shrieked with glee. Bella jumped down from the eagle's back and took off her petticoat. Here, you must have my petticoat as a reward for bringing me home. You can make 2 little jackets for your chicks. The eagle accepted the petticoat and soared away, while Bella dashed towards the castle. She could hear her parents calling her name. Here I am, she shouted. Bella's parents snatched her up joyfully and squeezed her tightly between them. Oh, Bella, we were so worried. Where on earth have you been? And where are all your clothes and jewellery? Oh, those, said Bella vaguely. I'm not quite sure. All I can tell you is that I have had the most wonderful adventure. Now let's take a journey with The Pot of Silver, a story from Afghanistan. Once upon a time, there was a poor farmer who worked very hard. Every day he woke up early to tend to his crops in the fields. He returned home late every night, exhausted from a day toiling away outside, looking after the wheat and making sure it grew as tall as possible and in abundance. But despite his hard work, he only ever made enough from his crops to buy just enough food for himself and his wife to last until he could next get to market to sell his goods. The market was a few hours away, and going there by foot to sell his crops took a whole day and was even more tiring than looking after his farm. Every night before bed, no matter how tired he was, the farmer prayed. And he always prayed for the same thing. "Oh, please, grant me riches in my hearth," he would say before getting into bed and falling asleep. The hearth is just that floor in front of the fireplace. One day the farmer was out checking his fields when he caught his shirt on the fence that separated his land from his neighbour's. The fence had been broken for a while. "I guess," he said to himself, "now is the time to fix the fence." The farmer got his tools and began to dig around the fence post. Once he had removed it, he decided to make the hole a little deeper so the fence would be more secure. But as he dug, there was a loud clanging noise. The farmer had hit something that definitely wasn't soil. Kneeling down, the farmer scraped away a layer of soil and saw a silver metal box. He loosened the soil around it until he could grab its sides and heaved it out. The box was clearly very old and made of metal. It had flowers carved on all sides and a lock dangling from the front, although it was not locked. "Phew, this is heavy," said the farmer, sitting back and taking a rest. After drinking some water, the farmer wiped the box clean and then forced open the lid. He had to put some effort in because the box had not been opened in a long time and the lid was very stiff. And what did the farmer see inside? Hundreds and hundreds of silver coins. No wonder the box had been so heavy. At first, the farmer was overjoyed because he thought his prayers had been answered, but then he remembered that he had asked for riches in his hearth. He knew that taking something that wasn't meant for him would be bad. So he secured the lid back onto the box and buried the box where he had found it. He dug a new hole for the fence post next to its old position, and after fixing it in place, went home for the day. When he got home, he greeted his wife, who had prepared a small dinner for them. While they ate, he told her about his discovery. "You did what?" the farmer's wife exclaimed after hearing that the farmer had reburied the silver. "Why would you do that?" "It was not meant for me," the farmer said. "If I had taken it, who knows what bad things would have happened to us." The farmer's wife scoffed, and for the rest of the evening refused to speak to her husband. She had always been an unhappy and selfish woman who wanted nothing more than to be rich and laze around doing nothing. When her husband fell asleep, the farmer's wife slipped out of the house and knocked on her neighbour's door, telling him what had happened. "The box is buried next to the fence post," she told the neighbour. "You should go and get it tonight, and we can share the riches." The neighbour agreed and headed out to the farmer's land with a shovel. It took him an hour to trek out to the spot, using the moon and stars to light the way. and it was quiet when he got there. The only noise, the occasional hoot of a bird. He found the fence post and saw the newly dug soil next to it. He began digging and only stopped when he heard a clunk as his shovel hit something hard and metal. "Aha!" said the neighbour. He pulled out the box and placed it on the ground. It was very heavy, and the neighbour took a moment to rest, building up the anticipation for what he would see when he opened the box. Slowly he opened the lid, which wasn't as stiff because it had already been opened once earlier in the day, but immediately snapped it shut again after glimpsing what was inside and, more scarily, hearing it. "That sneaky old woman," he said. "There's no silver in here. It's just a bunch of snakes. I bet she hoped I'd stick my hand inside and be poisoned, and then she could take my home and my land. More fool her. She'll get what she deserves." Making sure the box was completely sealed, the neighbour slowly carried it back to his house. Once there, he set the box down so he could get a ladder from his barn, which he set against the farmer's house. Then he climbed with the box up to the roof. At the top, he held the box upside down over the chimney and quickly opened the lid, watching as the snakes fell down into the farmer's house. "That'll teach the old woman to try and trick me," the neighbour said. The farmer's wife had been waiting up by the hearth, thinking about all the things she would buy with her new-found wealth. The first thing she planned to do was to go to the city and rent a beautiful house, and then buy some fancy clothes for herself. As she daydreamed, she heard a noise from the chimney and watched in shock as dozens of snakes poured out onto the hearth. She leaped back, knocking over the stool she was sitting on, and ran out the front door. "I refuse to stay here any longer," she shrieked. The next morning, the farmer woke up early as usual. He noticed that his wife, usually a late riser, was not in the cottage. He took a quick look outside and found a note on the tree stump where he cut wood for the cottage. The farmer had to admit he wasn't surprised that his wife had left. She had always been more suited to the city, and she would be happier there. The farmer made his way back to the kitchen to light the hearth for breakfast. And that was when he noticed an unusual sight. Covering the ashes from the day before were coins, hundreds and hundreds of silver coins. "My prayers have been answered," the farmer exclaimed. "I wanted riches in my hearth, and they have arrived." And so the farmer lived happily ever after, able to grow his business with the money from his hearth, hiring workers to help him, and better equipment to make his job easier. let's take a journey with the Frog and the Condor. High in the Andes Mountains there once lived a frog in a cool stream. This poor frog was born not like others. Her front right leg was nearly twice as long as her left one. "Oh, if only I had 2 perfect legs like my brothers and sisters," the frog bemoaned whenever she caught her limping reflection in the rushing waters. Near the stream, and feeling just as sad as the frog, lived a girl in the cave of a condor, a huge black vulture. She was forced to remain at his nest in a faraway cave on a rocky mountain outcrop. The giant black bird had plucked her from her happy livelihood as a shepherdess and carried her back to its nest, where she had to work hard every day, beating his vicuña skins. Vicuña is a wild South American animal with very soft and luxurious hair. So she had to beat these skins into blankets for his bed and into rugs for his nest, preparing huge meals to satisfy his voracious appetite. The little frog would sometimes watch the condor sail high in the air, then swoop for his prey. And the frog sometimes followed the condor home to the girl and her wailings, a sound that reminded her of her own sad heart. One day, she overheard this conversation. "So, did you beat the new vicuña skins to add to my bed?" "Yes, sir." "And where is my dinner?" "It is ready for you, sir. Now, please, may I go to the stream to wash my clothes?" "Absolutely not. Do you take me for a fool? You would try to escape." No, I wouldn't, please. I simply must wash my clothes. And besides, as long as you hear me beating my clothes on the rocks, you'll know I'm still there." Very well then, but be sure I hear you beating your clothes, or I'll fly there in a second and beat you myself." So the girl, whose parents had named her Collyer, which means morning star, wrapped herself in one of the vicuña skins and tied her clothes into a bundle that she carried to the stream. As Collyer beat her clothes against the rocks, she cried bitterly for her lost freedom. She was nothing but a slave, tending to the condor's every demand, while fearing every moment for her very life. With each beat of her clothes, she burst out with another wail. "Please don't cry," said a small voice. Collyer looked down to see a little frog on a rock, looking at her with sympathy. "What is the matter?" And the girl poured out her troubles to the frog, while the creature listened and sighed. "I can help you," said the frog finally. "I'm afraid there's nothing on earth that can help me." The girl turned away, so careful to hit her clothes against the rocks with a regular beat. "But I can," said the frog. "I have a bit of magic. For a few minutes I can change myself into any creature. If I change myself into you and keep beating your clothes, the condor will think you're still here and you can escape." "Do you think it would work?" Collyer brightened and looked with wonder at this little frog, who seemed, at that moment, to be the most beautiful creature on earth. She leaned over and kissed the frog on the forehead. "We cannot wait a second more," said the frog, and in an instant changed into the image of Collyer. The new Collyer picked up the girl's clothes and resumed beating them against the rocks. "Now go!" At once Collyer ran as fast as she could down the mountain to the valley in the shepherd's home. The little frog, as the image of Collyer, kept beating the clothes with the same motion. What is keeping that foolish girl?" the Condor hissed after many minutes had passed. "She'll make me wait here all day." The Condor flew to the stream where he saw the image of Collier kneeling over the rocks, beating her clothes. Landing on a high rock, he shook his beak, a hook powerful enough to pierce the hide of a llama, and shrieked, "Stop it at once, you silly girl! Come back with me now!" The girl stood up, jumped into the stream, and completely disappeared. The Condor flew directly over the very spot, but saw no shadow of a girl swimming underneath the water, only a frog hopping about. While the Condor flew up and down the stream, she was running away, closer and closer to freedom. After several hours had passed and he could find no sign of the girl, the Condor flew back to his cave in a rage. When the frog rejoined her brothers and sisters in the stream, they all gathered around her in a crowd. "What is it?" said the little frog nervously, and she tucked her too large right leg underneath so it wouldn't show as much. "Why, you are beautiful," said one sister. Fearing a joke, the little frog glanced in the water and noticed a shiny jewel glimmering on her forehead where Collier had planted the kiss. "It's like the morning star," said another. From then on, the frog lifted her head with pride, no longer afraid to catch a glimpse of her own reflection in the rushing waters.
I hope you enjoyed this special playlist. Be sure to send us your drawings at www.journeywithstory.com. Click on the contact and fill in the form there and attach your drawing. Cheerio then. Join me next time for Journey with Story. Music and post-production was by Colette Jonas.